Alright guys, so here's the review of the San Martin Vintage GMT. So this isn't using the standard cheap Chinese GMT movements that a lot of AliExpress watches use. This is actually using a HI-BEAT automatic GMT. So something that I've not checked out on the channel before, and I don't think there's that many of them actually about at the moment. So you may not have seen one either. But before we get into that, full disclosure, I was sent the watch for free, don't have to send it back, but you know the score. It's not going to change the way I do my reviews, going to keep it 100% honest all the time, no matter what. So the question is this automatic GMT going to be something you're interested in? Also, does it justify the higher price of the watch? Let's jump right in and find out. So here it is. I'm not going to talk about the packaging too much because it's the standard San Martin packaging that you've seen plenty of times now. But one thing I'm going to mention is to do with the links on this. So the screw links, a quick zoom in so you can see a little bit better. So the screwdriver I normally use to adjust the links on the watches doesn't actually fit these screws. So these are slightly smaller than the standard ones I tend to have on a lot of the other watches I've got. But fortunately they do actually include a little mini screwdriver in the packet, so that one fits perfectly. So nice little touch there. So taking a quick look at the rest of the watch, as you can see I've got the black dial version here. They do actually also do a white one, so I'll quickly pop that on screen so you can see what that's like. But I personally think the black one is the better of the two. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. So before we talk about this in any more detail, let's go over the dimensions. So we've got a diameter of 40mm on the case, but the bezel does stick out just slightly past that. So including the bezel, it's 41mm. Then we've got a thickness of 13.1mm, lug width of 20, and the all-important lug to lug is coming in at 48.7, but these mid-links do actually stick out past the outside of the lugs ever so slightly. So that takes it up to about 51. But as I say, it's only ever so slight, and they do curve down pretty much instantly. So it doesn't really affect the actual wearing of the watch. So the lug to lug is pretty much what the actual lug to lug is, if that makes sense. You'll see better when I show it you on wrist in a bit. So you probably noticed straight away with this one, we've got a bit of a faux patina going on. So right away that might put some people off. I personally really like it. Do you like the vintage kind of 60s style look to this? So this is actually an homage of the Rolex 6542. But as I say, they've changed a few bits. That one has a date window. Also, this one actually has a sapphire bezel, which is obviously not going to be on that one. I think that one was Bakelite or something, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong with that. If you do, let me know down in the comments. But I think they've changed enough little bits to make it their own and to bring it a bit more up to date, despite it being a vintage kind of retro kind of look. In keeping with that, I'll zoom in so you can see a bit better. We've got a fully printed dial, nothing applied. So got that San Martin hexagonal logo just printed, the indices all printed, then GMT, automatic, 200 meter, just above that 6. Then we've got the minute track, again just printed. We've also got a nice gold colour on those hands, so that kind of matches in with the patina we've got on the indices, and they've got the same colouring on those hands as well, on the Lume. So the Lume won't be quite up to the standard of some of the San Martins with it being the patina, but it's going to be an interesting one. I'll show you in a bit. So you want to stick around for that. When it comes to that GMT hand, we've got the red border on that, and again we've got the patina kind of Lume in it. Nice proportions on all the hands. So they've done a good job there, and a nice high polish on them as well. So does look good, catches the light really nicely. We've actually got a little bit of AR on that crystal too, because it isn't flat, there's a ever so slight curve to it. When it comes to the case, we've got a fully brushed case, just with some polished chamfer details on the edges, and we've also got some little polished details on that coin edge bezel as well. But as I say, the rest of it is pretty much just brushed. Similar kind of thing with the bracelet as well. So we've got a 5-link bracelet. Those centre 3 links are polished, the outer ones are brushed. Nice bit of flex with that. This kind of style bracelet, you expect that. Polished details on the outside, which obviously you can see do accumulate fingerprints a little bit, but does look good. When it comes to the clasp, you've got the standard San Martin one. So it's fully milled clasp, San Martin logo. 4 levers of micro adjust, double pushers, milled clasp, case back, sterile as you'd expect with this kind of style. Screw down case back, solid end links, the usual good stuff you get with San Martin. So let's check out if we have actually got sapphire on this, using the trusty diamond selector too. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal. Now let's test out that bezel. Yep, that is also sapphire. So, as I say, nice little touch there. I do quite like a sapphire bezel myself. So before we check out what the Lume's like, let's talk more about this movement. So, as I said, it's a HI-BEAT GMT movement, an automatic one. So we've got screw down crown, pop it out at once. We've not got a ghost date or anything. If you turn it the other way, you can actually move the GMT hand, and it does actually jump. You can probably hear it clicking to those different hours on that bezel. So it's got 24 different settings, obviously. Then pop it out again, you can see the second hand stops, so we've got hack in as well. Then obviously we can just change the time, and then that GMT hand will actually move with the other hands. Pop it back in, second hand re-engages, got a hand winding. So all working well, and then obviously you can just screw it back down. So the actual movement in this is the Homage 6460, which is a clone of the ETA 2893-2. So similar kind of situation as they have with the PT5000. So it's a clone of an ETA movement, so you know it's going to be good quality. So the beat rate on this is 28,800. Got a 38-hour power reserve, as far as I can tell. I've not had any issues with it so far. This is the first one I'm checking out, and obviously I've only been trying it out for, I think it's about 5-6 days at the moment. So take that with a pinch of salt, but as I say, with it being based on an ETA movement, I would have thought it would be pretty rock solid, given the track record of other Chinese watches that are clones of ETA movements. I've not had any issues before. So I suspect this will probably be the same. Plus, with it being from San Martin, I'm sure they've probably checked it all out and fixed any issues if there were any, regulated it and everything. I've not had any issues with it timekeeping wise either. So when it comes to using that GMT function, you're obviously going to want to use this bezel as well. So let's talk about that. So you can see we've got the 24-hour bezel on it, and we've actually got a 24-click bezel as well. So again, that will stop on every hour. Not the easiest of bezels to grip. If anything, they've smoothed it down a little bit too much. Perhaps they could have had just left a little bit more grip on it. It's not too bad, but as I say, it's not the easiest to grip. But I haven't had any issues with it really. And it is also bidirectional. So that is a nice touch. And you can see it does line up nicely as well. Could possibly be, well, maybe not, no. I was going to say possibly a fraction off, but it isn't. Lined up nicely, so no issues there. Obviously, that may vary watch to watch, but with the one I have, it's pretty much bang on. So Again, really nice touch. Having that 24-hour bezel that is actually a 24 click as well. Not something you see all that often on AliExpress watches especially. So I do appreciate that. So now, let's show you what the Lume's like on this. So you can see we've got a bit there already, but let's charge it up, give it a proper chance. Because it is a pretty interesting Lume profile on this one. You could probably begin to see it already. And there we go. So, despite what it looks like, the bezel doesn't actually look like that. It isn't actually loomed fully. It's just the numbers that are loomed. But because there's that much in there, and because it's a sapphire bezel, it's actually lighting up the whole bezel, which is a really nice effect. I do like that a lot. Obviously, that does fade eventually. So, as you saw it when I first put it on camera before I charged it up with that torch, you just see the numbers lit up. So the other bit does die down. But considering it's photina on this, it's surprisingly good. Definitely the best photina Lume I've had on any of the watches I've reviewed. So pretty impressed, despite it being photina. Obviously it doesn't last as long as other St. Martins. It's not up to that standard, but you kind of expect that, as I say. So it's C3, so you've got that green hue to it. When it comes to the hands and the indices, they last a bit longer than the bezel, as you kind of expect, which is the way you want it. But overall, when it comes to this kind of style of Lume, I'm still pretty impressed. St. Martin have done a good job. So all that's left to do now is show you what it's like on wrist, and then we'll wrap this up. So this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. And as I say, it does wear really nicely. And you can probably see now what I mean about these sensor links. They do stick out ever so slightly past the edge of the case, but because they drop down straight away, it doesn't really affect the way it wears at all. So it does conform to wrist really nicely, as you expect with this kind of style of bracelet. Plenty of micro adjust there to be able to get the good size, so it fits perfectly. I just think they've done a really good job on this. I love the way the light catches that bezel with it being sapphire, and also that slight curve on the crystal too. The photina, it's going to be one of those you either love or hate. I personally really love it, but I know some people aren't keen on it. If you're not, I think the white version might be a better option for you maybe. But the big question with this is going to be, are you willing to pay the kind of money they're asking for? I know it's not a cheap watch by any means, especially when it comes to AliExpress ones, but as I keep saying, with a lot of St. Martins coming out now, I'm considering them more and more as a micro brand. So if you judge it on that, I think it's probably a little more palatable. Yes, it's still quite expensive, but don't forget, you're getting an automatic HI-BEAT GMT movement, which isn't a cheap movement. Movement alone in this, I think, is over $100. So that's accounting for a fair chunk of the actual overall price of the watch. Then you've got that sapphire bezel as well. So again, that's not cheap. And obviously, with St. Martin, you're always paying a slight premium. They're right up there in terms of QC and finishing, I think. But as I say, it's down to you. What do you think? Are you tempted to get one of these? Or do you think it's too much? But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.